Teams ready to go, best 3 out of 5 sets. Stanford is the higher seed, will wear their home white jerseys. Big block on the outside. Catherine Plummer at 6'6", as you mentioned, working against Heather Knighting, the National Freshman of the Year, and the first point on the board for the Cardinal. Sydney Wilson, 6-foot sophomore out of Toronto, Canada, on to serve and play defense for the Cardinal. And that ball drifts just out of bounds.
Paul, one of the first things to note, Stanford talked about it yesterday, they have a shutdown blocker in Adriana Fitzmaurice. She's about to check in the game, and they have her all 3 times across the net against the star for BYU, Ronnie Jones-Perry.
Danelle Stetler, 6-foot senior out of Bluffdale, Utah, on to serve. Also will play the DS role. BYU 31-1, Stanford 32-1. Shank pass here by Stanford. Free ball opportunity. Mary Lake with the first contact. Nice off-speed shot by Plummer, but the first confrontation between Jones-Perry and Morgan Hentz.
And Coach Heather Olmstead, congratulations to her National Coach of the Year, just named earlier today. But she talked about eye work, and both these bros, these defensive specialists, have great eye work. Morgan Hentz for Stanford, and of course Mary Lake for BYU.
Out to Jones-Perry again, and there's the matchup you were talking about. We talked about Plummer being 6'6", Fitzmaurice wearing number 12, also at 6'6", and there's Heather Olmstead. Congratulations to Coach Olmstead in her 4th year, just selected earlier today as the National Coach of the Year, and she's going to have to bring all of that talent to bear to try to change some matchups and give her team an opportunity. Good quick start here by the Cardinal.
Yep, certainly it's been in the back of Stanford's minds, Paul, that loss in an otherwise perfect season. August 31st at BYU, 15-11 in the 5th. It was a huge battle, but it was only on the 2nd weekend of the whole season.
Quick 4-1 start for the Stanford Cardinal in gray. Out to Jones-Perry again, out of system and effectively down the line for number 12 in blue. 6-foot senior out of West Jordan, Utah, had 25 kills on 49 swings against Texas in the regional final at home in Provo. Here's Heather Knighting back to serve. Plummer into the cross court and missed it out of bounds.
Wow, Knighting is really hitting that serve hard, causing lots of problems for Stanford.
And working on Morgan Hentz. Jones-Perry going quickly on 2. Nice tip to the floor, aggressive. Lindy Haddock Epic, the 5'10" senior. She and her twin sister on the floor together and really assertive on that second contact.
And Coach Olmstead was talking about it yesterday. She has the green light to do that whenever she wants to, especially after that injury to their other strong outside hitter, McKenna Miller, earlier in November.
A couple of unforced hitting errors, first by Plummer, and this one by Fitzmaurice over the sideline.
And now Stanford is switching their system. Catherine Plummer goes back over to the left side where she takes more of the swings, a little more comfortable for her. And then if they have a bad pass, they can set her out there. She often cleans it up.
Good soft touch, another scoring opportunity. Ronnie Jones-Perry demolishing the Stanford block. Holly Rowe talked about it. She fell in love with the weight room after the early stages of her career.
And Alade just couldn't get her hands across the net. She was in the right position. Another tough serve from Knighting.
Look at that, some confusion and maybe some nerves from the Stanford Cardinal. But BYU, Karch Kirai, is serving absolute BBs right now, and a timeout is called by the Stanford Cardinal. They led 4-1, but now BYU has quickly turned this around.
They were the heavy favorites going into the tournament to repeat as national champs, but did not play well in that match against Florida. They were upset The players told us that they've used that all year for motivation and reminded each other that when things get tough, we have to stay together. They can't fracture. I did notice in their last huddle, guys, they were all holding hands, trying to stay together early despite being down here.
Thank you, Holly. BYU going to have another opportunity to add to this 5-0 run, but Heather Knighting out of the back row misses that ball out of bounds. Look, Stanford is 32-1. Their only loss was to BYU, but they lost the first set last week in the regional final at home to Penn State. And then they gathered around their second-year head coach, who's much more comfortable as Kevin Hambley this year in getting right in the players' faces and said, look, you do not want it to end this way. Plummer with the service error.
Especially it got dicey when they were down the second game in that regional final, 16-11 to Penn State, and that was the talk. This feels like Florida, the loss to Florida in the semifinal last year, all over again. They wanted to turn that.
Better pass finally in system, but a wonderful block out of the middle by 6'5" redshirt sophomore, or number 24, Kennedy Eschenberg, with some help from Jones Perry.
Stanford has tried 3 different formations here just to get the ball away from the block of BYU.
That ball left a little bit inside, but Fitzmaurice is able to get the ball to the floor against BYU. Stanford playing in their 22nd semifinal, their 3rd in a row for BYU. It is just their 3rd, the last in 2014. Here is first-team All-American Morgan Hentz.
Wow, you don't want to serve Mary Lake. That different colored jersey means you're going to have a perfect touch, Paul. And the clear choice to serve is Ronnie Jones-Perry in that formation. Instead, it goes to one of the best passers in the country. Perfect first touch. Only a blocker and a half in front of Jones-Perry.
It is obviously very early in this set and in this best 3 out of 5 set match, but BYU is really winning the serve and pass right now. That ball off the top of the block and down. And the kill for Fitzmaurice.
You are right. BYU exerting so much pressure at the service line. Adriana Fitzmaurice saving Stanford's bacon a little those last 2. Those were not ideal first contacts either.
Fitzmaurice, wearing number 12, heads to the sideline out of Overland Park, Kansas. Second-team All-American. Both her parents very athletic indeed. That's going to be a back row attack called against the setter, Lindy Haddock-Epic.
Yeah, but what happened is it came from the serve going to the right person, Jones-Perry, instead of Mary Lake in the white uniform.
Here's Kate Formico, defensive specialist, on to serve, and misses that just over the end line. Mary Lake, 5'7" libero out of Palm Springs, California, the defensive player of the year in the West Coast Conference, both this year and last year. Averages just under 4 digs per set, and like Hentz, can be really spectacular. Nice pass by Formico.
Oh, that's too close.
Nicely done by Jenna Gray, but a stab by Jones-Perry.
Nice up.
Into the cross court, Megan McClure registers her first kill, wearing number 4 in white, the 6-foot sophomore out of Santa Margarita, California.
You know, Paul, you've said it, but McClure is probably one of the most improved players from last year. When she hit then, it was 218. Now she's up to 280 for the season. Been a big part of Stanford's near-perfect season.
To Mary Lake again. Jones-Perry is stuffed. Holly Campbell, 6'4", freshman out of Austin, Texas. There she is, middle of your screen, wearing number 3 with a block.
Yeah, really nice handwork. You see Campbell's hands across the net, and she, as the middle blocker, has to always be aware of where Ronnie Jones-Perry is, because they'll set her front row. BYU will set her front row and back. Too many service errors for Stanford so far, trying to create pressure.
Their 3rd service error so far. Both of these teams going on extended runs. Stanford led 4-1, then BYU went on a 5-0 run. Madeline Robinson on to serve now and misses that out of bounds. Very fine line. You got to put service pressure on, but when you start missing too many, it takes the pressure off your opponent.
Yeah, BYU has 12 points, 4 of them Stanford serving right at. You do not want to give 1/3 of your points as gifts, plus a couple of hitting errors by Stanford too.
Up into the block and stuffed straight down. Madeline Robinson at only 5'10", not able to deal with Catherine Plummer and Tammy Alade. Tied at 12, opening set, best 3 out of 5 sets. First 4 sets to 25 points, must win by 2. 5th set tiebreaker, if necessary, will be played to 15. Knighting able to wrist over the top of the block that time and away from Formico.
Well, did you see how she didn't take a full swing on that? What a smart play. Block was in front of her. She uses her height, all 6'4" plus jump, to just tap it into the corner when people were cheating up.
She's had a very efficient season, just her first at BYU, hitting .393 so far on the year. Stetler on to serve. Plummer rocketing into the cross court and even got that one past Lake.
And that's saying something when you can get it past Mary Lake. Part of it is Plummer doesn't actually put that much spin on it, so it can have a tendency to float.
Right now, Stanford is really struggling in their hitting efficiency. We'll get to those numbers in just a moment. Free ball here. Right side ripped into the cross court once again by Fitzmaurice. BYU is hitting .400, 5 of 14. And on the other side, look at Stanford. Here is Gray. Out to Plummer again from well off the net. Nice stab in the backcourt. Stetler and Martindale playing a really good defense, and that missed over the top by Jones Perry, out of bounds. See on the season what Stanford is doing offensively, 3rd best in the NCAA. Tonight, so far, struggling mightily at the offensive end. Let's go down to Holly Rowe. We've got a timeout.
Well, Stanford has had their hands full off the court this week. It is finals for Stanford, and they don't get any breaks. The very first day of class, they have to go in and tell their professors, look, we may be out of town for finals in December, and they were. 13 players have taken final exams this week. Adriana Fitzmaurice was telling us about her difficult final. It was exercise physiology, and at first I was thinking that didn't sound like that hard of a class, and then I looked at her homework. My gosh, I know this is written in English, but we can't understand any of it. This is what she and 3 of her other teammates were taking a final on yesterday. Courtney Bowen had to take a final at 2 o'clock today, so these Stanford Cardinal, you've got to be thinking, not only do they have papers due, but finals. Hopefully they can have some rest easy moments after this match tonight with their schoolwork done.
All right, thank you, Holly. And it's right now BYU that is not resting easy. They have given up a 5-1 run. Are you surprised at this level, these teams that have played such good volleyball all season long are giving up such big runs to one another?
A lot of it is unforced errors. I am a little surprised. These teams have been playing very good. That's exactly great volleyball. That's why they're in the semifinals. But the service errors and the hitting errors of Stanford and a couple on BYU's side, all caused, especially from BYU, by the tough serving. Their Stanford setter, Jenna Gray, is running all over the floor trying to run the offense. That's not the ideal way to do it.
Stanford leading 15-13. Well, we got a timeout. We want to remind you the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship coverage continues with the National Championship. That's Saturday, December 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time over on ESPN2. For more information on the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship, visit NCAA.com, your home for all 90 championships. I misspoke a moment ago. I was looking at first ball side out. BYU's been pretty good there, but they're not doing a good job in transition. Overall, BYU currently is hitting negative, which means they have more errors than kills. Jenna Gray coming out of the timeout. Stanford on top by 2.
Why are they serving Mary Lake? and why are they hitting to Mary Lake? You don't want to get the ball, put the ball in a great ball control player's hands. They have a choice. They can avoid it. They got lucky on that block by Alade, but they have to serve one sideline or the other here. Jenna Gray, who is a good server, not pinpointing the target well enough.
Well, that was right in the lap of Mary Lake. She'll gobble that up all day long.
That's
now going into the cross court to Martindale.
Nice up.
Right on target by Hintz. And transition kill. Boy, what has turned it around for Stanford? They were struggling early. Kevin Hambley, in his second year as head coach of Stanford, called a timeout at 7-4, but Stanford is really, really playing well right now.
They sure are. When the ball goes to Hintz, the ball goes to Lake. Good things happen for these two teams in this battle of the bros.
17-13. Jones Perry blocked, and that's going to be a point once again for Stanford. Tammy Alade, the 6'2" senior out of Alberta, Canada, made the second team All-American group and the #1 blocker in the nation at 1.8%. That is a huge, huge number.
Remember earlier, she took one off the forehead and it went into the 20th row. That time she got her hands across and it's lights out.
Boy, it is all Stanford right now after a slow start. That's going to be blocking the set. Nice play by Jenna Gray to get the ball before it entered the zone on top of the net. Timeout called by BYU.
Huge save on that dig. It was too close to the net. Jenna Gray with a phenomenal effort.
We'll step aside. The Stanford
a huge contributor because she sees herself that way.
And the other thing that Coach Hambley gives her credit for, net on that play, or the ball hitting the antenna. The other thing he gives her credit for is she's just doing this for the team. A lot of these top players will go on and play volleyball after college, either professionally or some even with our USA team. She's looking to go to medical school, so it's really about giving to others, and she's having a couple of great junior and now senior seasons.
Going to take a year off next year, and then her hopes are to go to UCLA Medical School. The horn blew, and that's going to save Jenna Gray, who goes back chuckling, a wry smile, having a wonderful run here serving the ball. Stanford on top 20-13. Shank pass. As soon as they don't serve Mary Lake, it really shows a difference in the quality of serve received. Jenna Gray doing a wonderful job here.
Yeah. Now when they serve Lake, BYU switching the passers, trying to get a better combination out of the formation. But when they serve Lake, they're still scoring points, but they're having to be so much better because she makes great first contacts. Another tough one.
Knighting, that ball is blocked. Catherine Plummer, Adriana Fitzmaurice, and Tammy Alade out of the middle. Quite a triumvirate.
If I were BYU, and they're now doing it, they're telling Mary Lake to go pinch over, try to take more of the court. That's exposing Ronnie Jones-Perry, covering more court. Lake gets the touch that BYU wanted.
That ball off of Alade and out of bounds. Stanford already with 7 blocks. 1 for BYU. Point in possession back to BYU. They're the #4 seed overall. They were 17-1 in the West Coast Conference. They are playing without one of their outstanding outside hitters, and that has put a lot more pressure on BYU. McKenna Miller injured her leg, tore her ACL, and has been out now for over 10 matches. Nice cover. Had an epic coming over from the right side. And one tip is covered. The second goes to the floor, and Stanford now leading 23-14.
Paul, you're right. That's what we call off-blocker defense. You're the third blocker. The ball goes the other way, and Haddock Epic came sprinting across. What didn't happen is that Ronnie Jones-Perry had the chance to do the same thing. She didn't stay on her assignment.
Here is Plummer. Boy, BYU is living out a system right now. Very different from the first couple of points of this contest. Nice play by Lake. And Jones-Perry off the inside edge of Alade and out of the reach of Hintz.
And we might want to explain, Paul, what in-system, out-of-system is. When the team serves over the net, great up by Lake there to get another swing for her team. When the team serves over the net, Each team wants to make that first contact, that pass, and make it go close to the net in the middle of the court. That is in system. That's a perfect pass. When you see the setter on the run, that's out of system.
Missed into the cross court and out of bounds by Eschenberg. And now set points for Stanford, leading 24-15. You think back to the beginning of this match. BYU led 7-4, and it's just been back and forth at all Stanford in the second half. Set point number 1 by Hentz. Plummer out of the back row, and it falls inside of Ronnie Jones-Perry, and a very easy first set win for the overall #1 seed for the Stanford Cardinal. They took the 19-13.
It's been quite a year for our family and for volleyball to kind of bring us all together. It's been so fun.
They had some scholarship offers, but chose instead to walk on to BYU because you told them to. Why did you think this was the right place for them?
You know, I just remember talking to them, and I loved my experience at BYU. It's really like nowhere else. It's such a special environment. The coaches are awesome, the girls are awesome, and so I wanted what was best for them, but I just encouraged them to keep fighting for that spot so they can continue to play.
They got off to a good start, but then it seemed like they got a little bit nervous, weren't quite in their regular system. What do you remember of those nerves that you hope they can shake out?
Well, it takes some getting used to. It's a big environment, you know. I think we'll be okay once we settle down and start passing the ball. It's really going to come down to serving and passing, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Tamber Haddock, her twin sisters, Lacey and Lindy, playing for BYU. Thank you, Tamber.
Yeah, thank you.
And Coach Olmsted was telling us yesterday, maybe the strongest praise that Tamber had was just, she told her sisters, you will develop the most in every single area of your life. You have to think about going to BYU and to play for Coach Heather Olmsted.
Very challenging couple of years for the sisters. They lost their dad in 2017. Very surprisingly, that ball served out of bounds. Tamber talked about it, the serve and pass game so far. A little bit sloppy for Stanford early, but they have completely taken over.
And this is where it's going to kick in, Paul. A big word we heard from everyone at BYU yesterday was resilience. So how do they bounce back from really getting their rear ends handed to them in that first set?
Jones-Perry right now is hitting negative. Another brilliant dig by Hentz. Point scoring opportunity. Plummer, that ball looked like it was up into the net. I don't know if they'll give BYU, but in any case, a block for that. But in any case, it will be a point for the Cougars. 7 blocks. Remember, they're the best blocking team in the entire country. BYU on the year hitting well over 300 and being held to negative, which means they had more errors, more balls hit out of bounds, more balls blocked than they did have kills. Nice save by Gray. Back to Fitzmaurice into the cross court. Fitzmaurice now with 5 kills on 12 swings. The offensive leader so far for the Cardinal. Ronnie Jones-Perry really struggling, hit 0 in the opening set. Same number of his errors as kills, and got stuffed on the first attempt. That ball down in front of number 4 in white, Megan McClure.
Really surprised that ball fell, Paul. That was not really a hittable ball by any means, and Stanford not responding properly. That ball was going to come short over the block. Nobody was prepared.
Jones-Perry right now, who's been getting 39% of all the swings for BYU, just 4 of 14, and 5 times she's been either blocked or hit a ball out of bounds. Campbell out of the middle is able to put the ball away. Stanford won the opening set after trailing early, 25-15. And now out quickly here, 5-3 over BYU. Right side off the top of the block. That'll be chased down by Formico. Another dig by Hentz. And again. Oop. And Morgan Hentz can't get that one, misplayed by Catherine Plummer.
We talked about it at the start, Paul. Morgan Hentz is going to be everywhere. She makes the first touch. Stanford keeps it alive, and then she was just too short, but racking up the digs, and there's a perfect pass. What a great read by Mary Lake.
Campbell into the cross court, but right now Morgan Hintz is the best player on the floor. Every contact for the libero in the black jersey for Stanford is right on target. First team All-American again.
You're right. If you do it well, you earn your team a set and a swing. You do it poorly, the ball goes out of bounds or right back over the net, and the other team gets another play. Wow.
Hintz again just putting on a show defensively. Ball set a little bit tight. Smart shot up into the block to restart. And into the cross court and out of bounds. Boy, Stanford's defense is really putting a lot of pressure on BYU to get the ball to the floor.
Yep, sometimes Morgan Hintz will chase it down, and other times it's just digging heat from the cannon arm of Ronnie Jones Perry.
Here is McClure. Talked about her, Karch, being one of the most improved players in the country. Last year, she was very solid, but an afterthought offensively. Now she makes first team All Pac-12. Knighting over the top and missed out of bounds. And a timeout called by Heather Olmstead and BYU. Stanford up early here in the first of two semis. Championship Data Center. You can follow real-time stats and see extended camera angles, both in addition to what everyone else sees at home. Back with U.S. national team head coach Karch Kirai and Paul Sunderland. Holly Rowe on the sideline, and so far all the Stanford Cardinal. Nicely done deep into the cross court corner. Madeline Robinson able to put that ball away. Now, BYU beat a very, very tall and athletic Texas team in the regional finals, 3-0. Why are they having so much more trouble with the size of Stanford?
Because Stanford is serving so much tougher and creating problems. The whole BYU offense has broken down thanks to that tough serving.
Up into the block and rejected once again, cannot be covered by BYU, and Stanford just putting on a block party right now. That's 9 blocks for the Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah, BYU is only passing about 4 out of every 10, 2 out of every 5 serves from Stanford in a place where their setter can even, Lindy Haddock-Epic, can even run the offense.
9-5 advantage for the Cardinal. Knighting, nicely done into the cross court, number 2 in blue. Mentioned it right before first serve, Heather Knighting. Congratulations to her, the National Freshman of the Year.
And you can see how devastating BYU can be if they get 3 good contacts like that. Knighting hitting against one blocker, easy put away.
Stetler on to serve again. And that's going to be shanked out of bounds by number 11, Formico.
It's interesting, Paul, how we have defensive specialists for both sides, people who only play halftime volleyball in the backcourt half, really having a lot of trouble, and their teams are having to compensate. Stanford right now pinching way over to cover for Formico.
Up into the block, covered by Hintz. A chance for BYU to get back within 1. And does so into the cross court, going to number 2.
Great choice by the setter for BYU, Haddock-Epic, to go back, even though Knighting's hitting against a very strong blocker in Catherine Plummer. There's really only one blocker, and one-on-one, hitters have the advantage.
Karch, you talked about the resilience of BYU, seeing a little of that and some patience as well. And another shank pass. Formico's got to come out of the match right now.
Yeah, Formico passing under 40%. And look, Stanford pushes her back into the corner. That's not something they've done much this season. She usually receives serve, but Plummer has to step back into the formation. Formico in the corner. Better pass.
Nice play by McClure. Off the top of the block, Catherine Plummer going nicely off the edges.
Well, it's so interesting. That's the #1 determining factor as to whether a team's going to score a point or not. It's how good that first contact is. That time Stanford putting the ball right on the money. So Plummer has the easy swing for a kill.
6 kills now for Plummer, the reigning National Player of the Year. BYU passing much better here in the second set. Knighting is slowed momentarily. Here's Jones-Perry, and rejected by Alade.
And this is the matchup Stanford would love to have. Alade in the middle and Adriana Fitzmaurice. Those two, that blocking combination is exactly what they set up. Remember, you can have any one of your 6 players on the court be the first server. Each team sets it up without knowing what the other team's doing.
That ball missed out of bounds. Knighting begging for a touch, none detected. We do have the video replay system. You can challenge a touch, a ball in or out, a net violation or not, 3-meter line violation, and a foot fault on the service line. And Heather Olmstead, in her 4th year now as the head coach at BYU, since taking over for her brother Sean, we're going to have our first challenge.
Yeah, you could see her asking Heather Knighting, you swung at that ball. Did you make the ball touch the opposing block? Knighting said, yes, I did. Coaches rely very heavily on their players to make a choice as to whether the challenge, especially because you only get 3 unless the match goes 5.
If the match goes 5, you get 1 additional challenge. We've talked about a change to the rules. Watch the hands of the Stanford blockers. Maybe a micro touch on Alade. Knighting was absolutely certain, as were most of her teammates in the vicinity, that there was a touch off of Alade, the middle blocker, wearing number 6 in white.
Boy, that's tough to see. I mean, that's a great angle. It's just.
And again, to overturn the call, the video must be 100% conclusive that there was indeed a touch. If not, the point will stay on the board for the Stanford Cardinal.
We're getting great looks here, but to me, it's not clear enough to overrule.
You bet. From underneath, it's going to look different.
Well, you can hear the official.
Yeah, you have to have convincing evidence.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
If that's her closing argument.
Confirm the call, no touch.
Yeah, confirm the call. That's great audio. Wonderful work, you guys. So Heather Olmstead is down now to 2 challenges. The one rule that I would like to see change with respect to the challenge is that you only have 3. If there's a call that's missed and you use a challenge to overturn it, that's a refereeing mistake. Mistakes happen, but you as a team should not be penalized by losing that challenge in order to correct a missed call.
I agree with you. I'd like people to be able to keep their 3, and you only lose 1 of those if you're wrong. The other thing is the system is, it can take a while. It's going to get better over the next few years, and when it takes less time to get answers, that's when they can really think about allowing 3 challenges, and you keep yours if you're right on any of them.
Jones-Perry, a much-needed kill for BYU off the edge of the block and down. Ronnie Jones-Perry out of West Jordan, Utah, 4-year starter. Averaged 5 kills per set on the year. She's averaging over 6 in the tournament. Again, the absence of McKenna Miller playing a big role in that. Plummer ripping down the line off the defense that time of BYU.
We mentioned it at the top, but a couple of what are called in volleyball huge arms, somebody who can just rip it. And Catherine Plummer does for Stanford on the other side. Also in the front court right now, Ronnie Jones-Perry. 2 of the 4, only 4, first-team All-American outside hitters this season.
Jones-Perry quickly again off the edge of the block and out of bounds.
Oh, that hit Jones-Perry on the way down off the block. Stanford's going to challenge.
So we will have our first challenge by Kevin Hambley, now in his 2nd year, the Pac-12 Coach of the Year. He is going to challenge that there was a touch off a player. Good call, Karch.
It looked like it hit her shoulder, her left shoulder, as she came down from attacking.
Kevin Hambley played at BYU, had an outstanding career there, grew up originally in Southern California before going to BYU, and coached at Illinois for 8 years and got them into the national championship. The challenge again off of Jones-Perry. in 2011.
Oh, it looked like it hit her elbow. But that too, I don't know if it's clear and convincing enough. The other thing you can notice, Paul, is all the other players are cheering like, oh yeah, touch, out of bounds. Always got to help the referees make the right call, which is a call for your team.
Well, we have a moment. Jones Perry is clearly an outstanding volleyball player who's had a wonderful career. 6 feet tall. You were an undersized outside hitter, hitting against the Russians, hitting against the Poles, the Bulgarians. How did you get by? Because at only 6 feet tall, I mean, granted she's been doing it her entire career, but it seems to be a little different animal against the Stanford Cardinal.
Well, for one thing, you want to jump high. And she, as Holly mentioned earlier, she's improved her jump over 8 inches. She's now able to jump and touch. Look. Let's take another look. Ball is flying almost horizontally and then goes down. Yeah, that is a great view of the touch. But to contend with with tall blocks, with people who jump high, you first of all got to have great leaping ability. Second of all, maybe even more importantly, you have to have great vision. And so you can find the little edges and pieces and holes between blockers' hands and daylight, and then you have to have a variety of shots. You can't just rely on a cannon arm and always hitting hard, because eventually the block's going to catch up.
Yep.
Let's try to listen in.
We're going to reverse the call. Touch of BYU.
Yeah, the call is going to be reversed, and you were exactly right, Karch. Into the Stanford block, then off of Jones Perry. And so it will be 14-10 advantage Stanford after winning the opening set 25-15. Still to come in our second semifinal. The number 3 seed Fighting Illini taking on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They were seeded number 7, and they are the defending national champions. Plummer again at the line. Both teams have used 1 challenge. They have 2 remaining.
More trouble for BYU.
Stanford was losing the serve and pass early on. That's completely flipped. How?
Surprisingly, BYU's defensive specialists, we call them DSs, are having trouble, and BYU switches the pattern and pulls Jones Perry back into the formation. So now she will pass this ball, and that goes over. That's just as much trouble as a pass that barely stays up above the floor on their side.
BYU has no chance against the number 1 seeds unless they get their ball control together. Their resiliency is being tested. They got off to a pretty good start here in the second, but they cannot pass serve right now. Timeout is called. Stanford on top 16-10. Let's go to the sideline and Holly.
Well, we are not on the sideline because I am living in Hentzville. We wanted to ask the coach of Stanford just how much area does Morgan Hentz cover on the court, and he said everything. She is absolutely everywhere. We asked her if she can cover all of this, and she says yes. Whether it's over here, all the way back here, we are all living in Hentzville, population 1, because she can literally cover everything.
I love that.
You know, Paul, we talk about 5-1 offenses, that's 5 hitters and a single setter. Well, Morgan Hentz, we could just say she's running a 5-1 defense. 5 people standing about where they're supposed to, and she goes wherever the ball goes. And boy, is she. They're leaving her often half the court. You could see that left half of the court is often just left for her. So they have 2 people covering the other half, and it makes it a lot easier on her defensive teammates.
Out of Lakeside Park, Kentucky, a junior and already a 2-time All-American, and talked a lot previously in her career about she was going to play volleyball in college and then go off for the rest of her life. She wanted to work with children with disabilities. She has a sibling that has a very serious disability, autism, and but now she's talking about staying in the game for a lot longer.
Yeah, she was talking about learning to love the game more. To me, the way she plays, how hard she can go every single day, whether it's a uniform is on or whether they're training, it tells me that she loves the game, but she's been able to find a way to do that even without as much passion.
Eschenberg off the block and out of bounds. A much needed, obviously, kill for BYU. Hitting negative still so far in the match. 14 kills, 17 errors. They've been blocked 11 times, hitting negative 0.43.
The leading offense in the country. Huge turnaround, averaging 315, but negative.
McClure over the top, dug nicely by Stettler.
Oh, wow.
Up into the block smartly by Alade. Opportunity here for Plummer. Dug by Lake. Jones Perry blocked, covered, and out of bounds. Another block by Stanford.
That's exactly the matchup that Coach Hanley talked about. He wanted Fitzmaurice, Adriana Fitzmaurice, and Tammy Alade. That combination blocking Ronnie Jones-Perry.
Hentzville is getting bigger. The population's the same, but the town's getting a lot bigger. Morgan Hentz covering everything.
And she'll take this.
And that ball missed out of bounds. That is missed by Lacey Haddock, the twin sister of Lindy. And BYU is in real trouble, trailing 18-11.
You also have to give Adriana Fitzmaurice credit. She's learning a new position this year. She played a lot of middle. She's actually a very good all-around volleyball player, but has not played on the right side until this year. Having to learn how to be a right side blocker and swing. Oh, trouble. Nice way to give it some height.
Plummer ripping out of the back court. Stanford leading it 19-11.
It looks like a little thing, Paul, but it's not. When Morgan Hentz touched that last play to start the Stanford offense, she put it up higher. There was a lot of chaos. She eliminated that. It got back into a well-organized offensive set.
That ball floats just over the end line. Remember, these two teams played back in August. It was just the second match of the season for Stanford, and it was BYU winning that 3-2, 15-11 in the fifth. And they did a good job on Catherine Plummer. Yeah, she got her 21 kills, but hit under 200. A different story so far tonight in this first of two semifinals. McClure is blocked one-on-one. Nicely done on the outside by Lacey Haddock.
Yeah, she and her sister, they don't have a huge amount of height or crazy hops, but they get in great spots. Coach Olmsted talks about having great eye work, and they use it really well. Looking at the hitter, getting clues.
Wristed over the top of the block and missed. And now Danelle Stettler, the 6-foot senior, playing some front court as well, as BYU is looking for offense anywhere they can get it, still hitting negative.
Yeah, Madeline Robinson, who was in that position earlier, hitting minus 200, so they're looking for a different answer.
Dug by Hentz again. We got to check her numbers in a moment. High flat shot. Lake gets a hand on it, but give the kill to McClure. And look at the Stanford Cardinal. They know who's leading the party right now, and it's Morgan Hentz.
Yep, and in the Battle of the Bros, she comes up with it, and look across the net in the white jersey. Mary Lake unable to do so. So in many ways, Hentz winning that battle tonight.
9 digs already for the Stanford libero. Out to the right side and stuffed straight down by McClure. Stanford running away, Karch, with this second set. 22-13.
BYU stuck in a tough rotation. Ronnie Jones-Perry in the back court, in right back. She won't be up to the net for a while. They've got to figure out a way to get the ball to the floor without her.
Kennedy Eschenberg, 6'5" redshirt sophomore, able to put that ball away. BYU's middles hit for a really, really high percentage, but their passing is so poor right now they can't get them involved. Here is Lake. Shank pass out of bounds. BYU trying to get the job done from the service line, but they've got a very, very tall task ahead of them, trailing by 7. That ball just over the end line. Service story so far 3 service aces for BYU, 4 errors for the Cougars. And here's McClure once again. Stettler looking high hands. All the BYU players are calling for a touch, and we might have another challenge. Remember that BYU has already used 1.
So that's the thing, when you only have 2 and you're down 23 or 24 to 15, probably got to stave it.
Set point number 1. BYU already trailing 1 set to none. They lost the first 25-15. Campbell sharp into the cross court on the slide. Holly Campbell, the 6'4" freshman out of Texas, putting the ball away. And the number 1 seeds look unstoppable, Karch-Kiraly. They win the first 2 sets by an identical score of 25-15, 25-15, and BYU hitting negative so far. Fewer kills than errors so far for what was coming in one of the best offenses in the country. Let's go over to Holly Rowe.
Well, Coach Kevin Hambley of Stanford, your team was down 7-4 in the first set and you called a timeout. What was important to communicate right then? Because since then, they've really found themselves.
I mean, we just needed to settle down. I think both teams were pretty anxious at the beginning. You saw a lot of errors in that first set and it wasn't played at a real high level, and we just needed to settle them down and start taking care of the ball, though we haven't passed great yet, so we're hoping to still pass a little bit better. I think we're starting to defend pretty well, but we got to pick it up passing. We know this thing can turn pretty quick.
You have been serving well, though, and really taking BYU out of their offense. What do you notice there?
Well, I mean, we're hitting our spots and we're being aggressive, and we're living with some errors that we had. You know, we certainly had a bunch early. We're just getting them off the net enough that we can get our block involved. Our block's pretty good, and so if we can get them involved, then we're in good shape.
Thank you, Coach.
Of course, thank you.
Guys?
Heather Olmsted, once again, a very, very famous volleyball family. Her brother Sean used to coach the women's team. They went to the NCAA finals in 2014. He's now moved on to the men's side.
And she had really special words for her brother in receiving the National Coach of the Year today. Said those 3 or 4 years that they spent coaching together were some of the best years of her life, being able to work with a family member so closely like that. And now you might notice that BYU has spun the dial a little. They are starting in a different formation to try to get Jones-Perry better looks, so they don't have her hitting against Adriana Fitzmaurice across the net. Instead, she's hitting against outside blocker Jenna Gray.
Eschenberg able to tuck that ball down inside. Stanford deciding to put a serve on Mary Lake and paying the price.
Which has happened pretty much every time. Great things have been happening when they don't serve Mary Lake. Not so hot things when they do.
Yeah, Mary Lake is outstanding, as we mentioned, a defensive player of the year in the West Coast Conference the last 2 years.
Oh, that's too close.
Nice save at the net that time by Haddock Epic, but an opportunity here for Stanford. Boy, talk about too tight. Both teams a little bit sloppy here with their ball handling.
Yeah, and you have the reigning National Player of the Year in Catherine Plummer. All you got to do is give her a little bit of a chance. Keep it 5 feet off, a few feet inside. She can take a rip.
Jones-Perry had to get down on the floor after that soft block was not available in transition. And Plummer nicely done into the cross court. Give you Plummer's numbers in just a moment. Now 9 kills on 24 swings. Having a pretty good night offensively. BYU's defense is holding Stanford down. They're hitting 209 as a team. They hit over 300, but BYU just can't score offensively.
And Plummer, the last time they played, August 31st, she hit under 180. So it's an improvement, but of course, BYU just in general a great defensive team.
Jones-Perry trying on the right side and nicely done. Tooling the block down the line.
Yeah, that's 6 feet going against 6'6". The answer is hit it off the pinky of number 2, just like that. That's called hitting the edge of the block. You don't want to hit them in their elbows. You want to hit it at the edges where the ball can't go back down hard on your side.
Oh, right over the top of the block by Fitzmaurice. Yeah, good idea to just rip that little pinky off.
Anything to slow Plummer down. She's, as Coach Olmsted said, most humans can't do what Catherine Plummer can do. So they're looking to try to break down a couple other people across the net.
Fitzmaurice has been really good offensively as that ball is just missed out of bounds. 6 of 15 with only 1 error, hitting .333. Plummer misses that. Point in possession back to BYU with a rare lead here early in the third. 4-3. Mary Lake back at the line. Trying to work on Plummer. And Fitzmaurice is rejected by Knighting out of the middle.
Nice reaction by BYU. They were cheating away from Adriana Fitzmaurice and then recovered back into the play. Ooh.
BYU's got to score on these opportunities. Right side down the line and out of bounds. That time missed by number 11, Lacey Haddock.
See, and that's where that injury earlier to McKenna Miller in early November is really hurting BYU when they're up against a top 4 team in the country, because they're just much more limited offensively and struggling to find the floor with some players who aren't. She was hitting something like,
yeah, got it right here, Cart. She was hitting .307 on the year. There she is.
Exactly.
There is McKenna Miller. I talked to her yesterday. She's already had surgery on her left ACL. She was doing some work outside the court here yesterday at the Target Center, and we wish her well in a speedy recovery, but a huge impact on BYU.
Yeah, well over 3 kills per set. So when you lose that much offensive production, you struggle to find it in other ways, and you have to look to Jones Perry. She gets the kill there, but you have to look to her to carry an even bigger load.
There you see the numbers for Miller. That was really, really a big injury that BYU had to absorb, but here they are. They beat Texas. I mean, in the regional finals, they have had a really, really nice run to get to the national semis.
And give Miller credit, until she got injured, she was having a huge season for them. Great freshman campaign, little down in her sophomore year, wasn't always starting, but a big part of a nearly flawless season. They only lost the one final conference match, WCC match at Loyola Marymount.
Formico all over that, just camped out. Nice dig in the cross court. And once again, Holly Campbell made the all-freshman team in the Pac-12. Loves to slice and dice cross court.
And that was a thin slice. She's hit it inside the 3-meter line a couple of times. You can't cut it much thinner than that.
Nice tap to the floor. A very, very physical setter, and Haddock epic. We talked about Miller being out of the lineup, but look at the run for BYU in the tournament. Okay, Stony Brook, not much of a challenge, and remember BYU was at home. But they beat Utah. Utah is a good team out of the Pac-12 conference. Then they beat Florida 3-1, and then they swept Texas 3-0. And that ball missed out of bounds.
And remember those shots, the atmosphere at BYU, those first 4 matches, first 2 weekends, was spectacular. Over 4,000 people going crazy for the Cougars.
The number 4 seeded BYU Cougars, a phenomenal season. Just that one loss to Loyola Marymount at the end of the year. Jones Perry trying to go over the top of the block, but does not get a piece. Remember, BYU disdained a challenge right at the end of the second set, so both of these teams have 2 remaining.
Remember that run that Knighting had in the first set with serves like that.
Back to Plummer. And off speed. Nicely done. Really, really large repertoire. People think you just can hammer the ball down. Plummer really showing you a nice change of pace.
And she's put a lot of work into expanding her toolkit or her toolbox. That was a half swing, a bit of a roll shot. And when you have the ability to hit it as hard as she does, that's a great addition because people are back on their heels.
BYU's found a little bit better rhythm in the receiving game. Eschenberg able to put that ball away, number 24 in blue. A lot of such talented young middle blockers around the country. That is really a long list. You've got Knighting as a freshman, Eschenberg a sophomore, and right around the country, a lot of top middle blockers in their first couple of years of collegiate volleyball. Nice dig by Lake. Through the block and down, number 13, Danelle Stetler able to put that ball to the floor. BYU getting the job done in transition. Carts now leading 11-9 here in the third in a must-win situation.
Started with the defense of Mary Lake.
Ace serve, BYU. Service game coming to the fore once again for the Cougars. Nice play by Jenna Gray. Talk about athletes at the setting position. Jenna Gray finished second in the NCAA track and field championships in the javelin.
Yeah, her brother-in-law coached it, and she figured, you know what? Yeah, I'll give that a shot. Throw it out of the stadium.
Hopes to maybe make the Olympic qualifying distance and give throwing the javelin a try in 2020. BYU blocked on the outside. Fitzmaurice has been really good in both blocking and attacking phases.
She said it yesterday, it's on me. I've got to get great blocking lineups. That's an example of picking the right spot. Not too far, not too close to the sideline, not too far inside.
14 blocks now for Stanford. You mentioned it, Karts, the best blocking team in the country on the season, and they've doubled those averages. Dug by Hentz again, right on top of the net. Good coverage by Gray.
Nice.
Morgan Hentz again. And off the edge of the block and down, but give the assist to the libero for Stanford.
Can she get two out of that? She made two great plays, keeping the ball up in the air, and Plummer finishing now. She hits the edge a little against Ronnie Jones-Perry.
Tied at 12. Eschenberg off speed. Hentz has got it. Looked like she stabbed into the floor a little bit. Couldn't quite get to that ball. Is she one of the very best you've ever seen at the collegiate level?
Well, she could probably use more discipline. Sometimes she'll do a lot more running around when you don't need to, but she does. She has an amazing amount of vision, and there's a great first contact.
Fitzmaurice once again adding up the numbers offensively now. 7 kills, leading the way for the Stanford Cardinal, the 6'6" junior out of Overland Park, Kansas. There is Catherine Plummer. Tied at 13. Stanford on top 2-0. Won the first 25-15, won the second 25-15. Good coverage by BYU. Best point of the match so far. Hence, that ball went through Alade's arms. Momentum rally. Jones-Perry is roofed. '15th block for the Stanford Cardinal.
And the blocking combination with Fitzmaurice and Alade that's been giving BYU fits.
Chance again to Stanford. Fitzmaurice, right side. Nice coverage by Gray. And off speed by number 12 in white. Adriana Fitzmaurice has been the offensive star so far for the Stanford Cardinal. Season turnaround for the Rockets has that finally begun. Back in Minneapolis, first of 2 semifinals, but it's all Stanford so far over BYU. Stanford the #1 overall seed, BYU the #4 overall seed. Adriana Fitzmaurice again.
And that's what she's done a lot of her career for Stanford as a former middle, is that one-footed slide approach. Coming back in transition, she seems like she hits that one harder than the two-footed jump.
7-1 run now for Plummer and the Cardinal. BYU passing the ball pretty well, but Tammy Alade is a superstar blocking right now. That is her 7th stuff block for the Cardinal. Led the nation at 1.8% and even doing better than that tonight in the NCAA semifinals, the 22nd appearance for the Stanford Cardinal. McClure high off the top. And another stuff.
Paul, at some point, you got to stop challenging the block of Alade. Look at how far her arms and hands are across the net. Got to find a different answer.
Well, if you turn the ball down the line, then you get Fitzmaurice at 6'6". Best blocking team in the country and looking every part of it tonight in the semifinals. Down the line, and the kill here from Madeline Robinson, much needed for BYU. Tammy Alade, look at the numbers we talked about. Her 14 blocks tonight. Boy, did I sell her short. Babatamalor Imanthic Alade. From Nigeria, that is her entire legal name. She wants to be a doctor next year or the year after. She is operating all over BYU right now, 19-14. Morgan Hentz. BYU is running out of time, trailing 2-0 and now down by 5. Robinson again down the line, but that ball called long. Let's go over to the sideline and Holly.
Well, as you said, she has a very long name, Babatamalor Imanthic Alade, 26 letters. So she is on pace right now to have as many blocks as letters in her name. We did ask her head coach, Kevin Hambly, if he knows how to say her entire name, and he said absolutely not. But I love it that it means a gift from God. She has certainly been such a blessing to this Stanford team. But the most important thing, I think, is we told you earlier in the set about him challenging her to be better and not settle to be a practice player. And here she is in the national semifinal, being everything for this team.
Having a tremendous evening so far for the Stanford Cardinal. That ball ruled out of bounds by Robinson of BYU. But they are challenging whether or not this ball went off the outside right hand of Fitzmaurice. BYU, remember, has 2 challenges left, but they are running out of time. I don't see any movement on the hand of Fitzmaurice.
Well, it looked like it didn't actually go at hand level. The question is whether it hit her, just the end of her right sleeve, the white area, the outside of her wrist.
And again, it has to be 100% conclusive for the call to be overturned.
And it's tougher to catch that than to actually see.
Yes, it is.
When the ball catches a finger, her arm's not going to move as much. This is a tougher call to overturn, even if she did touch it.
No matter the final decision, BYU will be down to its final challenge. Kevin Hambly and Stanford still have 2 challenges remaining. This is a huge call in both directions right now. The point on the board for Fitzmaurice and the Stanford Cardinal, 20-14.
Oh,
yeah, that's a great look.
What a great view. That's a touch. The sleeve moved. Wow. Beautiful angle. Below the fingers, it was sleeve. You know what? That's an argument for playing with short sleeves. Don't want to have that sleeve. Give it away, Paul.
Touch ruled against Stanford, so take the point off the board. A huge 2-point switch. Good use of the challenge. Stanford's lead is now 19-15.
But an easy serve for
very
BYU.
easy. And Fitzmaurice easily able to put that ball away. Hit .342 on the year, so it's no surprise that Adriana Fitzmaurice is putting up these kind of numbers. She's been, look at this, 11 kills on 23 swings, hitting .435 so far in this semifinal.
She had at least 2 teammates yesterday just say not only is she a shutdown blocker, but she is just generally the quiet assassin on our team. She takes care of business. It's not a lot of fireworks, but makes so many good plays and good touches.
Knighting able to put that ball away. A quick reminder, a half an hour after the conclusion of this first semifinal, it'll be the number 3 seed Fighting Illini taking on the defending national champions, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They played twice during the regular season, and surprisingly, they each won on their opponent's home floor. Stettler. McClure going off speed. Nicely done by Megan McClure.
Oh, Paul, I love that shot. That off speed, she gets her arm back so it looks like it's going to come with full power and then just slows it down. BYU did not see the right thing.
Jones Perry hammering through a hole in the Stanford block.
And they chose this matchup. They want her hitting against Jenna Gray much more than against Adriana Fitzmaurice. So they got a better matchup, but they haven't been able to exploit it enough. Not enough good passing.
Keani Moa'ie out of Hawaii on to serve.
Nice.
Beautiful dig, but can you turn it into points? That ball into the antenna, that's a hitting error against Jones Perry, and point to the Stanford Cardinal. Jones Perry so far on the night, 8 kills on 29 swings, 11 total hitting errors, so still hitting negative for the All-American. Shank pass, service winner for the Stanford Cardinal. And now they are just 2 points away. (23-17). Stanford has been in the national semifinals for the 22nd time. They have already appeared in the finals on 15 occasions and tied with Penn State all time for the most NCAA titles at 7 apiece. BYU has had a phenomenal season. There is no getting around that or diminishing it. Just a wonderful season at 31-1. Most of the year they were ranked #1 in the country. But Stanford has just been too big and too very good. Match points now for Stanford. They won the first set 25-15 after trailing early. They dominated the second, winning it 25-15. Match point #1. That's going to be blocking of the set. Nicely played by Jenna Gray. And Stanford is moving on to the championship match for the 16th time and will take on either Illinois or Nebraska.
Paul, Stanford was looking forward to this rematch. Their only blemish this year, a 5-set loss in late August up on BYU's home court. Clearly, they were better prepared coming into this one. A lot more time to study.
A magnificent performance in spite of the fact that they're all in finals. They focused on this semifinal match tonight. For Kevin Hambley in his second year, he'll be playing for the first time as the Stanford head coach in the national championship. Stanford improves to 33-1. They've won 31 in a row, and they are moving on to the national championship match on Saturday.